defense of the LA Clippers. Boy, their defense is oh so good. Zubac's meeting him at the basket there and then starting a break in the other direction, and that's Kawhi Leonard with the layup in transition. And this was a bit of the story of the game last night. Again, Doncic going to the hole. Again, the defense at the rim was good, and this time Doncic goes down a little shaken up. He would remain in the game, but he would struggle last night. The Clippers, I'll say it again, are a great defensive team. That's Beverly with the steal. That's Paul George with the slam. George had 17 in the first quarter. He'd finish with 26 on the night. Clippers would run out in front, and they would never look back. Third quarter, they're up by 19 points. It's Williams, it's Leonard, it's good. He would finish with 28 on the night. Clippers a commanding lead. Fourth quarter, under 5 minutes to go. Doncic still in the game, down by 20, trying to spark a comeback, but nothing to be found. Doncic, 22 points, 6 assists, 7 turnovers. Clippers, a statement win, 114-99. And the Clippers have temporarily placed Luka Doncic's tear through the NBA on hold. He was averaging 65 points a game over his previous 4 games, but created points, but created just 38 last night. 0 for 8 from behind the arc, by far his worst shooting performance from deep this season, not to mention the 7 turnovers. And look who was with us this morning, the one and only Jalen Rose. What up, though, my friend? Let's talk about Luka Doncic. He is spectacular, but that Clipper defense was unbelievable last night.
Absolutely, Green Mamba. And the thing is, you start the game with Patrick Beverly guarding him. Patrick Beverly gets in foul trouble. Paul George has 17 points in the first quarter, gets himself going offensively. Kawhi Leonard gets going in the second quarter. And you look up at halftime, Lou Williams is the third player for the Clippers in double figures. We're only talking about Doncic for the Mavs because we're not really talking about Porzingis. He has to continue to evolve and become that true number 2 that Luka Doncic can depend on a nightly basis. But the Clippers, when they lock down, can be the best overall perimeter defensive team in the game.
And let me very quickly ask you about where we started our program this morning. The incredible Stephen F. Austin upset of Duke last night at Cameron Indoor. What did you make of that? What do you take away from something like that?
I know most fans thought I was going to come on the show and have a Stephen F. Austin jersey on, but I wouldn't be the guy to do such a thing. But if you look at the landscape of collegiate basketball, the top players like Wiseman in Memphis, we've seen Michigan State lose to Va-Tech, we've seen Kentucky lose at home. It just shows you that this may be the year that a true Cinderella has a legitimate chance to cut down the nets when it's all said and done. I know when the tournament brackets come out, we always talk about the Cinderella, but ultimately when they make it to the Sweet 16, when they make it to the Final Four, they get bounced. Maybe this is the year that it actually takes place.
Last night, the slipper definitely fit for Stephen F. Austin. Jalen, we'll see you in a minute. We'll take a quick break here on Get Up. A lot more to come as we continue here this morning, including why the pressure in Dallas may climb even higher on Thursday. The challenge for Dak Prescott and the Cowboys offense. What
down low, knocked away by Ware. It's loose. David Kinsmill comes up with it. Here's Bain on the other end. Bain on the breakaway. Bain on the dunk at the buzzer. Lumberjacks win. The Jacks have just beaten Duke.
Unbelievable last night. Stephen F. Austin knocking off the number 1 team in the country. This is a moment and an occasion worthy of wonder and tears. And look at the celebration in the locker room afterwards. Stephen F. Austin, a winner.
You guys seen Forrest Gump? Run, Nate, run. That's what I was thinking. And I'll tell you, this is the first time Stephen F. Austin's ever, we set history. We're 1-0 against a team that's ranked in the AP number 1.
We lost. And, it's a very difficult loss, but it's also a loss that if we would have won, we would not be deserving of winning. That's the way I look at it. So, I mean, it's on me, but heck, you got to give credit to them.
How big an upset was this? Caesars didn't have a line on this game. At Westgate, it was 27 points. That made for the largest upset in a D1 game over the last 15 seasons. Uncle Seth Greenberg, how'd they do this?
I call it the art of the upset. Can you impose your will and can you impose your system on your opponent? Well, what does Stephen F. Austin do? What they do is pressure the ball, keep it on one side of the floor, deny everything, and take your opponent out of any offense they want to run. They forced 22 turnovers, 22 points, and then offensively, 64 points in the paint. The ability to impose your will on the game and your system on the game. We're seeing all these upsets. They are a byproduct of teams absolutely imposing their system. Owning the tempo of the game is the most important thing in an upset.
Just unbelievable. And then it was fun on Twitter afterwards. The ultimate Cinderella, UMBC, tweeting at the Stephen F. Austin guys, "Are you up?" To which they replied, "Just hanging out. How about you?" And UMBC continues, "You look good tonight. Just had to holler at you." And then Evansville gets into the act as well. They upset number 1 Kentucky earlier this month. They jumped in with, "Oh, hey guys, what's up?" So listen, it has been a month filled with crazy upsets in college basketball, but last night was the biggest. Then we get to college football, where unlike last week, there were shakeups in the top 6 in the college football playoff rankings. Namely, at the very top, Ohio State is now number 1 in the country after hanging on against Penn State, leapfrogging LSU. Second time this year, the number 1 team drops after a win. That had never happened before. Whereas Alabama, they stay at 5. Only the Iron Bone remains, and Alabama has just a 66% chance to win that game. That's the lowest entering any game this year, including the one that they lost to LSU. And then another one to watch is Oregon. They're out. They fall to 14 after losing to Arizona State. And that's probably bad news for number 6, Utah, which needs a quality win if they're going to want to get themselves into this thing. The All-State Playoff Predictor essentially has the Pac-12 out of this thing. You see all the teams on your screen there. Those are the ones with the excellent chances to win. Down at the very bottom, you see Oklahoma is at number 6 as far as best chance of getting in, and that falls all the way down to 12%. So we're dealing in those 5 teams, and that's probably it. I got my crew here, and I got Dan Orlovsky there. Dan, we haven't talked to you so far this morning. What was your biggest takeaway from the rankings last night?
What's going to happen at 4? Because if Bama wins out and if Utah wins out and Oklahoma wins out, the committee's going to have to decide if they're going to put Alabama in at 4. They got to tell 2 conference champions not good enough. And that's going to be really difficult, in my opinion, to say, hey, Utah, your quality win is against a number 14 Oregon. Alabama, your quality win is going to be against the number 15 Auburn, but we're still going to put Alabama in ahead of you. Or Oklahoma, your quality win is against the number 9 Baylor. You know, I think it's going to be really difficult for the committee to go Alabama, unless Alabama absolutely drags Auburn on the road this weekend. It's going to be hard to say the Pac-12 conference champion with 1 loss, you're not good enough, and the Big 12 conference champion with 1 loss, you're not good enough. We're going to put 1 loss Alabama in at 4.
Desmond, you know my theory here. I believe the reason they flip-flopped Ohio State and LSU to number 1 and put Ohio State up there is they do not want to set up LSU and Alabama in the playoff. I strongly believe they are now making plans to put Alabama in this thing.
Right.
If they win this Saturday, assuming they do, will it be just in your mind to put Alabama in the Final Four?
Ooh-wee. Not if, I think if Utah beats Oregon, matter of fact, I think if Baylor loses, Baylor to Oklahoma, I think Oklahoma will leapfrog Alabama.
You would put Oklahoma
as a conference champ.
What do you think, Paul?
Totally disagree. I mean, Dan laid out a great episode there, but the problem is you're forgetting about Alabama's loss. Alabama lost to LSU. Mm-hmm. Nobody else had to deal with LSU in this. And I think just doing this, look at the top 10 wins. I mean, Alabama played LSU. They lost the game by a couple of points at home.
Wait.
That, to me, even in defeat, trumps all the
Dan,
don't deface
Dan, I can hear you trying
I'm
to
sorry.
Go ahead.
I mean, this is the problem here, Paul. Like, you're saying that one team has a better loss than the other team, but doesn't have a better win. Like, I don't understand how we've gotten to a point in football in general, but college football, where it's like, well, this team just had a better loss than the other team, even though the other team has a better win.
We're talking about playing the number 1 team in the country.
And Dan, but we're talking about college football too. What you said is exactly right. You don't understand how we got here because nobody does. And that's the thing that they can do. They can go into this room and they can make these decisions based on what they feel. Obviously, it's not about who you beat. It's not about how you beat them or how many top teams you played, because LSU should be number 1 by resume. They think that Ohio State is the more complete team, so they can set this thing up any kind of way that they want. And I do believe that the loss will be taken into play.
It's more so that they don't want LSU to play Alabama once they move up to Alabama. I don't even think they really believe that Ohio State is a better team than LSU. I don't think they truly believe that.
Earlier, though, they went in the room and they said, hey, guys, this is how this might play out.
Right.
We have to be prepared to show people how this happens and set it up in the correct way.
LSU has the #1 strength of record right now. They play a good team this weekend in Texas A&M, and then theoretically, in order to get through this thing, they would beat Georgia in the SEC championship game. If that didn't make them the #1 team in the country, it will be such a ridiculous outrage. You should be furious. I'm getting Marcus, I'm getting all of my LSU guys. I don't know what we're going to do. I'm telling you right now.
We need 2 hours for that show, Greeny. Just us.
A sternly worded letter is going to be forthcoming from this group. I will tell you that. Dan, final
I'm
word.
not signing it.
I've been trying to tell you for a month now. RC's not going to like hearing this. The two best teams in college football, the two most complete teams, are Ohio State and Clemson. Those are the two best teams.
You're out of
That's
your
why
mind.
Ohio State's #1.
Can I just say you're out of your mind? Listen to me. Are we all of a sudden, when did we turn college football into figure skating or gymnastics or something that we just judge these things
I'm
based
doing the
upon whether we
opposite.
think they stuck the landing? Look what, if LSU beats Auburn, they will be the first team to beat 5 teams that are ranked in, if they beat Georgia in the SEC championship game, they will be the first team to beat 5 top 10 teams in the same season in 70 years. If that doesn't get you the #1 ranking, Dan, what does?
Well, they need to score 40 points a game to do it because their defense is
that
that poor.
The objective is to win. That's all that matters.
Is LSU the best offense in America? Then we can have a conversation. They're not the most complete team. Ohio